The Transfiguration of the Lord. What a stunning event. The gospel records that his face shines like the sun and his clothes become white as light. Before that happens, though, Jesus shows us his humanity. He has 12 apostles who will become the leaders of the early church, the original bishops. But within those 12, he has an inner circle of Peter, James, and John. And just like really any earthly leader, there was an inner circle of people who were closest to him. Now, with that said, everything quickly changes and we see his divinity. All three readings this Sunday point to this same event. In the first reading, the Old Testament prophet Daniel sees a vision of the Ancient One on his throne. This is God the Father. We read that his clothing was white as snow. So clearly, the shining, transfigured Jesus in the gospel is showing his divinity, like the Ancient One, God the Father. Now take a moment to imagine how Peter, James, and John felt. I mean, clearly, they must have been overwhelmed. They had seen Jesus perform miracles. In fact, he had given them the power to perform miracles when they went out into the countryside. Yet, up to that point, nobody changed the way they looked. No one became glowing. Thus, Jesus was raising the ante on showing his power. The only thing more astonishing recorded in the gospel is the resurrection. And the resurrection gives us the pathway to the infinite, the bridge to the everlasting. And the Transfiguration points to the gospel because it presents Jesus' glorified body. You can bet that Peter, James, and John never forgot it. In fact, Peter writes about it in the second reading today. We had been eyewitnesses of his majesty. And they experienced not only the majesty of Jesus, but of God the Father, as Peter continues, for he received honor and glory from God the Father when that unique declaration came to him from the majestic glory. This is my Son, my beloved, with whom I am well pleased. So we see the glory of Jesus and the glory of God the Father. Note how Peter's writing perfectly matches the Old Testament reading prophecy from Daniel's vision. For after seeing the throne of the Ancient One, God the Father, Daniel relates, I saw one like a son of man coming on the clouds of heaven. When he reached the Ancient One and was presented before him, the one like a son of man received dominion, glory, and kingship. And of course, the gospel passage agrees, as it writes, while he, Peter, was still speaking, behold, a bright cloud cast a shadow over them. Then from the cloud came a voice that said, This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased. Listen to him. We see what the Transfiguration means for Jesus to show his divinity. Well, what does it mean for us, for you and for me? I would say it's very much the same as what it meant for Peter, James, and John. Now, the Transfiguration occurred in the last year of Jesus' earthly ministry, his final year. And it was not long before he started making his way to Jerusalem for the last time. The apostles with Jesus were going to face some very dark times ahead. The Transfiguration would have encouraged them to remember that Jesus has great power and God was with him. Just as Daniel predicted in his reading about the Son of Man, saying, his dominion is an everlasting dominion that shall not be taken away. His kingship shall not be destroyed. So Jesus has dominion over all things. Therefore, they should not become discouraged and despairing over what lay ahead of them, no matter what happened. As we progress through our lives to the last day, that same encouragement is for us.